Hello, everyone, and welcome to this buyer-focused webinar on Feng Shui for real estate with consultant Claire Englebert. Before we begin, we have a couple of housekeeping notes. We will have some brief time for questions, so please use the Ask a Question module down at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions you might have or upvote a question that you would like to see answered. Secondly, if you are finding that the thumbnail view of Clear's video feed down there at the bottom is blocking part of the slideshow for you, you may need to adjust the size of your browser window so that the thumbnails don't overlap the main screen. And so now here is Claire Englebert, the author of Feng Shui for real estate.
Welcome, folks. Thank you for attending. And this is the first of 3 webinars on Feng Shui for real estate. This is for buyers, but it's also for renters, anyone who is looking to move into a new home, whether it be a freestanding home or condominium or apartment. The links to the other webinars will be found on my website. And the way this is organized is the same way the book is organized, by the severity of the problem, so that you can see what are the worst problems and just get those over with first, so that you don't pick a home that's got really bad feng shui. There are solutions, and they're of 2 kinds. There are real solutions where you change the situation and the problem just isn't there anymore. And then there are symbolic solutions where, when you can't change the situation, you put some small physical object in some place particular, and you express your wish out loud that the situation were changed. The first problems that we come across, the first 10, are things that I call deal breakers. And these are the most profound ones. And you can see from this picture that the first thing we'll be dealing with is the landform. Landform is the oldest kind of feng shui, and it's the strongest. The picture here of the little house sitting in the chair, that's the ideal situation, where you've got something behind the home rising up, and it's called the armchair position because on each side of the home there are also some rises. In front, the land slopes gently down. And the main thing you want to watch out for, and this is the first thing to rule out as far as looking at a home, that would be that you don't want the land behind the home to slope down severely. If that happens, just don't get the home. Now, look at the 2 drawings. The one on the left shows behind the home. It does slope down, but it's not a severe slope. And so there are fixes for that, one of which is quite powerful, and that is planting evergreen shrubs or trees behind the home that then symbolize the correct landform. The next drawing that's beside that shows a home that has the land sloping down on the sides where there should be the arms of the armchair. And once again, you would plant evergreen shrubbery or trees to symbolize the correct land around the home. Now, as we go through this, I will mention a cure here and there, but in the book, there are lots of cures for different things. But these first ones, these first 10, if you have really severe these problems, you just don't want to get that home. So if behind the home, it slopes down really severely, don't buy that home. Don't don't get that problem, you need to shop across the road where it's much more likely that the home will have its door opening to the downhill side, the front door, and behind the home, the slope is up. So that is the main first deal breaker. And then the next problem would be a triangular lot. It's unusual, but I've seen them. It's out there. Don't get them. They're horrible. They say something's missing in your life. If the lot is rather large, like 5 or 10 acres, that kind of thing, then you can work with it. And the way you do that, look at the drawing to the right, and you'll see how some evergreen plants have been planted around the home, forming a yard that seems square or rectangular. And that fixes the problem there. But that would only apply to a really larger property, not to a regular lot. So the best shape for a lot is square or rectangular, but it can have more corners than 4, but it cannot have less than 4. 3 corners on a lot, just pass on that one. The next situation would be electromagnetic fields, EMFs, and that is mostly encountered when you're close to an electric substation. And it could also happen if you have a unit that you look out your window and about 5 or 10 feet away, there's the big electric lines, the municipal electric lines, and it's even worse if there's a transformer. Also, if you've got a home more in the country and there are big cross-country electric lines, those big lines like that, what you have to do if you think that's going to be a problem in the home is you need to buy a Gauss meter. And Amazon has them pretty cheaply. And all they will say is safe or not safe, but that's really all you need to know. The one I carry with me is a tri-field meter from Alpha Lab, and it's the exact same one that cardiologists use. And if you think there might be a problem, you need to measure it. The only solution for electromagnetic fields is a sheet of solid metal. There's also something called a Faraday cage that would possibly work too if it's made for the correct frequency, but this is a problem you just don't want to get at all. It's not good for your health. Just avoid it. Ditto for the next problem, which is being under a low airplane flight path. It's going to disturb the home repeatedly over and over again. Good solid rest will not be found in that kind of home. Shop in a different neighborhood. There is no good cure for that at all. So I'm just going to say period, exclamation mark, and move on to the next one. So this is the first one that is inside a home. And when I'm looking at floor plans, this is actually the first thing I look at. And if I see it, I just tell the person, veto, nope, don't get that one. So it's a central bathroom. It's when there's a bathroom where one of the walls does not touch an outside wall. And that just renders the home pretty bad off for its feng shui. In my own experience as a consultant, what that says is disease, divorce, bankruptcy, and possibly death. And I'm going to tell you a little story. When I was early on in my career, I was consulting for a family south of San Francisco. And the wife was there, and she had her mother with her. And so we started walking down the hallway toward the bedrooms, and I noticed this bedroom off to my left, and it seemed, bathroom, and it seemed kind of dark. And I said, well, let's stop right here. It looks like we might have a problem. I think this is a interior bathroom because it doesn't look like it reaches the outside wall of the building. And in my experience, what this says is disease, divorce, and bankruptcy. And the mother said, that's this house. That's this house. And the wife started crying because they were going through bankruptcy, they were going through divorce, and she had just been diagnosed with breast cancer. So don't get a home with this problem. There are some fixes that you can apply, and they start with putting a bagua mirror outside the bathroom above the bathroom door. But this is a really onerous problem, and it's better that you don't even get a home with it. And I want to show you homes that don't have this problem. Look at the drawing on the right, the apartment A and apartment B. Those bathrooms there, they don't touch walls that are really outside walls, but what they do touch is walls where the other side is not part of your apartment. And then that's okay if that's the case. The drawing on the left shows a really healthy bathroom because you can open the window and get fresh air. So that's the first thing I look at inside a home whenever I'm looking at floor plans for someone. Now, the next situation also concerns bathrooms, and if it's a bathroom in the wealth corner. And so where the wealth corner is if you step inside the home and look to the far left, that's the wealth corner, far left corner. You don't want a bathroom there. Don't get that at all, because water symbolizes good fortune, money, and there's all these drains in a bathroom. So that symbolizes your money and your good fortune draining away. There are some fixes, and I know people who have applied them and found that their life could work and move on with their life. But like before, this is a really terrifically bad problem. And if I see it in a floor plan that someone is asking, should we get this home? Should we build this floor plan? I always say, no, you don't want that problem. That's not good feng shui. Don't get it. The next problem is related. It's imagine that the wealth corner is just missing. It's not there in the home. The two back corners of the home are what I call the power corners. The one to the left is the wealth corner, and the one to the right is the relationship corner. And both of those issues, both of those things are hugely important in a person's life, their relationships and the good fortune that pours into them. And if that's missing in the floor plan, then just don't buy that home at all. Don't rent it. Don't consider it. Go on to a home that doesn't have that problem. There are some fixes, and they begin with mirrors, but it sets you off. If you get a home like this, it sets you off with a terrific handicap. So the next problem is if stairs are in line going up, stairs going up right in line with your front door. Baolin Wu, who wrote Lighting the Eye of the Dragon, and I have Susan Levitt to thank for turning me on to that book. That's one of the best books about feng shui. And this is the problem he considers the most severe problem inside a home. And if you are looking at a home and considering it, and it's got that problem, if you can change the stairs before you move in or immediately after you move in, look at the drawing to the right. You see how they changed the stairs so that the bottom doesn't face the doorway? That's perfectly fine. That's no problem at all. But if you cannot do that, if you're going to have to leave it so that the stairs going up are right directly pointing at the front door, and you can see it just as soon as you walk in the front door, don't get that home. The next situation is spiral stairs. They are referred to in Feng Shui as a corkscrew through the heart. And doesn't that sound horrible? I want to differentiate between gracefully curved stairs and true spiral stairs. The photo on the right is gracefully curved stairs because nowhere when you're going up or down the stairs are you above any other treads. But the staircase on the left, as you go along, you're going to be above the treads that you've already passed. And that's a really harsh situation. If you are unable to change out a spiral staircase to a different kind, then pass on that home. The next situation is an A-frame house. So this is a true A-frame house here because the roof goes, it's cute, I'll admit that. The house looks really cute, but the roof goes all the way down to the ground. And that means that on the main floor of the home, the walls are slanted inward. And that's a huge handicap to be living with, to have walls that slant in like that. And I'll show you a situation that's similar, but it's not a problem. This is a steep roof, and on the second floor of the home, there is some of that issue of the walls would be slanting in a bit, but on the main floor of the home, the walls are vertical, and that's how you want them. You don't want walls that are anything but vertical on your in your main living area. So I think that's a pretty easy kind of home to know and notice about. So let's talk about floor plans, because very often what people will do is they will email me the floor plan of a home they're considering building or of a home that they're considering moving into. And what I look for are these things. So I would just want to pass them on to you so that if you're looking at a floor plan, you can just know. The central bathroom, nope, pass on that. If either of the two back corners are missing, pass on it. If there's a bathroom in the far left corner, the wealth corner, don't get that home. Stairs, they shouldn't be spiral. They should not aim directly at the front door if they're visible from the front door. And somewhere, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but stairs should touch an outside wall somewhere. They shouldn't just be central. And then the last thing is rare, but if the floor plan of the home is triangular, that's absurd. Don't get it. And it's so rare that I've only really seen it once. And the people had paid $1 million for the home. It was very modern and all that, but I told them to move out, and they did. And they got a fabulous, much better home with a much better floor plan. Don't get a home with a triangular floor plan. Don't even consider it. So the next things are extremely important issues, but they're not deal breakers. And that's because there's ways you can fix them, often symbolically, but the solutions are much more feasible, and they're detailed in Feng Shui for real estate. Here, I won't go deeply into them, but the book does go deeply into them because I wanted people to know if you are going to have to compromise and get something with a problem, what you can do about it. And I should say right here that there is no home with perfect Feng Shui. That is well known in the Feng Shui world, that kind of home just doesn't exist. So the first issue is the size of the backyard. The backyard is where prosperity symbolically accumulates. And if the backyard is really small in comparison to the front yard, because that's how we're judging it, is in comparison to the front yard. If it's really small, then the opportunity for good fortune to build up in your life is limited very, very severely. I've been to homes where they have had additions built onto the back so far into their backyard that it was actually hard to walk between the back edge of the property and the home. There pretty much was almost nothing there that you could call a backyard. So preferably the backyard should be a little bit bigger than the front yard, but it should be what you'd think of as adequate, not too small. If you have to get a home like this, I'm going to say, please don't. But if you really have to, then the solutions start with mirrors on the back, which symbolically enlarge the home. The next problem would be a tree in the front yard that would be in a direct line with the front door. If you walked out of your front door and you headed for the sidewalk or the road, there'd be a tree in front of you. That tree is symbolizing obstacles. I dearly love trees, but that's not the place for one. If you're able to remove the tree, then no problem. There are some symbolic fixes, but the problem is fairly unusual. I'm glad to say, but do be on the watch out for it. If the tree is not in a direct line with the front door, but off to the side a bit, you just don't have this problem. It would need to be right in front of the front door. And the next problem also concerns the front. It doesn't concern the sides or the back. These are, if you're going upstairs, some stairs to reach your front door, those stairs need to have risers on them. So look at the photo on the left and you'll see that there are risers in between the treads. So you can't just look at an open space between the treads that you walk up. But the steps that are on the right in that photo, there are no risers. They're structurally fine, but a lot of the energy, like 90% of the energy that's already got your name on it, is going to miss you. It's going to slide through. It's not going to be correctly guided up to your front door. If that's the case, if you need to get a home with that situation, other circumstances are dictating it, then just be prepared to add risers as soon as you move in. If it's a condo or an apartment and the stairs are cement and there's no risers, if there's an elevator, I don't consider it a problem at all. The next situation is a blue roof. And that's the only color of a roof that's a problem in Feng Shui. And it's because blue is representing water, like the great blue ocean. And here it is extending beyond the walls of your home and symbolizing that water, money, good fortune, is flowing away from you. And that's been the case every time I've gone to a home with a blue roof. No matter how expensive it was, the people that are living in it are having financial problems. If you can change the color of the roof as soon as you move in, then do so, and no problem at all. You've got a great home. There are some symbolic cures, and they involve mirrors and crystals, and they are detailed in Feng Shui for real estate. Now we're getting to things that are of moderate importance. They're important, but the thing that I think of them as moderate is that they're easier to get a good, complete fix for. And also, some of them aren't problems at all. It could be a situation that if you can get it, do so. The first one being what's referred to as a money bag lot. So the money bag lots are the ones that are most on the right and most on the left. That shape where, imagine, look at the drawing on the right. Imagine that the driveway is the opening of a drawstring purse, and you're dropping coins in there. And the bottom of the drawstring purse is the backyard where the coins are building up. That's an ideal situation, because remember how I talked about the size of the backyard? Well, having a money bag lot gives you an automatic boost in the back part of your property. And that just says money's gonna be coming in well, and you're gonna be able to save it, and that kind of thing. The middle drawing is the opposite, and that's referred to as a dustpan lot. And be better if you just didn't get that kind of lot. The best shape for a lot is a perfect square or a perfect rectangle, and a money bag lot is really the only improvement over that. The next situation would be concerning the front door. I have gone to homes where I couldn't find the front door once I got there. Once I parked and got out of my car, I could not find the front door. Once it happened early on in my career. It was in Marin County, and I arrived. I spent 15 minutes looking for the front door. And when I got there, finally, the client wasn't there. She had written the wrong time down in her calendar, and that was an example of energy missing her. And that is the problem with having a hidden front door, is that energy just might not find you. The front door should be noticeable from the moment somebody first gets out of their car and approaches your home. It should be quite noticeable. You'll notice this front door is red, and that's one of the reasons that in Feng Shui, the outside of the front door is often, it's recommended that you paint it red because it makes it more noticeable, red being such a noticeable color. If the front door is around to the side, that's not so bad, as long as you can make it very plain with signage or sidewalks that this is the direction someone should be going in to get to your front door. But if the front door is really around back, just pass on that home. Now, the next situation would be exterior poison arrows. And a poison arrow is energy that's coming from a straight line. And it could also be coming from a sharp right angle. The two drawings on the left are examples of that. You'll see the one, there's a straight line aimed right at the house, and the one next to it, there's a sharp right angle. And you'll see how the edges of that sharp right angle, energy is speeding along, they meet up, and then they aim right toward the house almost viciously. The drawing on the right shows a house with a gable, the pitched roof. And if you've got that situation across the road from you or nearby, that's the lower part of that drawing, and you'll see how the energy from that pitch of the roof is aimed at someone's home. So that's something to be aware of, but there are solutions for it, and this next slide shows them. So if you've got the opportunity to put plants in, evergreen plants, that would be ideal because you've really made it so you don't even see that sharp right angle pointed at your property. The plant that's been installed, that's the blue plant close to the problem at the bottom, that's an ideal place to put an evergreen plant because you've stopped that poison arrow energy early on and you've allowed more peaceful energy to accumulate around the home. But if you can't do that, if you can only put a plant where the red plant is shown, that's fine too. It's not as ideal, but it's still fine. You're blocking the energy from that poison arrow. If you're not able to use plants, you can use a mirror. And the drawing to the left shows that there's a sharp right angle pointed toward your building, and you use a mirror to symbolically push it away. And that's what you would say out loud when you put the mirror up, is the purpose of this mirror is to symbolically push away the energy of the shape of that building. You're not, if they're good neighbors and that sort of thing, you're not trying to push their energy away as people and that kind of thing. It's really what you're concerned about is the shape of the building. And the next thing we'll talk about is the shape of a building. And the ideal shape is a regularly shaped building. That would be a perfect square or a perfect rectangle, but that's not always what you find. The drawing to the left has got kind of a gap along the back. That's the fame area, and it's missing there. The two drawings to the right, those are L-shaped homes, and any L-shaped home in Feng Shui, it's referred to as a meat cleaver home. And one of the walls is called the blade wall. And how you locate that wall is you find the longest outside wall. So look at the middle drawing. You'll see the bottom of the home. That's the longest outside wall. Then you go the farthest away from that wall that you can, and that will show you where the blade wall is. And it's not a deal breaker, but what you don't want is to have your desk or your bed or a lounge chair, someplace you spend a lot of time, to be placed on that wall. The drawing to the right shows a bed that's on that wall. And I've been to homes like that, and they really didn't have any other choice but to put the bed there. And the Feng Shui remedy is symbolic, and you put a good-sized mirror across from the bed or the desk or the lounge chair. And what that mirror is doing is symbolically moving the furniture to the other wall. And the reason that happens is if you stand in the room and look in the mirror, you're going to see the bed, and it's going to be symbolically moved over to that wall. Now, sometimes a home is very irregularly shaped. These are examples of that. The first two on the left are condos, and you can work with them. You just have to realize that you got to use a lot of mirrors, and you need to know what the shape is that you're trying for, what the ideal square or rectangle would be. The home on the right is a freestanding home, and they're building plenty of freestanding homes that have got pretty oddball, irregular floor plans. And they can be very expensive, but it sure is not making good feng shui. You have to put mirrors in, and if you have a yard, it also involves sometimes putting an object in the yard to fix that. Now, sometimes even a room in a home can be irregularly shaped, and L-shaped rooms are not uncommon. In fact, in homes that have what's referred to as great rooms, they're pretty common. Sometimes that great room is acting as the foyer and the living room, and off to the side, part of it's acting as the dining room. And that can be corrected by mirrors. You see how the gray lines are placed in this drawing, and that is showing where the mirrors would be placed with your expressed intention that with those mirrors, you are symbolically enlarging the home. That kind of shape, that L-shaped home, can make a poison arrow within the home. If that right angle that intrudes into the room is a sharp right angle. The drawing on the left shows that. It's a sharp right angle, and you would not want to have anyone's regular seating or sleeping area in line with where that dotted arrow is going along. In the drawing to the right, that corner has been changed, and a different kind of molding has been put in called bullnose, and that changes the energy of the room for all time. You've made the space have better energy. There is no poison arrow going off into the room. The energy flows around that corner quite gracefully and nicely. The next situation is rooms that have definition. This is a bedroom, this is a living room, this is an office. And the problem with great rooms is that they're not well defined. Sometimes a great room these days is also serving as someone's remote workplace and that kind of thing. They're becoming less common because the COVID pandemic has shown people that it is good to have a room where you can close the door, do your office work, and that sort of thing. But another situation that's where a room is not well defined is unfortunately becoming more popular, and that's referred to as an in-suite bathroom. And it often is right off of the main bedroom, and there's no door between the bathroom and the bedroom. And that's really bad feng shui. When you're unconscious, when you're asleep, you should not have any chance of exposure to that drain down body waste energy that is what a bathroom is about. If you're able to install a solid door, do so. That fixes the situation completely. If it's going to be a little while before you can do that, you'd put up some curtains. But a solid door is really what's needed. When you're asleep, you do not want your body to be exposed to that kind of vibration. And I've even gone into homes, expensive homes, because it's considered to be very exclusive and nice, where they put a bathtub in the bedroom. And that's absurd. That's terrifically bad feng shui. So keep those purposes separate. The next situation is can be fairly common. It's open beams, and the ideal ceiling in feng shui is one that is flat and level. There are no visible beams, and it's a flat ceiling. In this situation here, you'll see that one of the open beams is directly above a chair. And what the solution would be to, one of the solutions anyway, would be to hang a crystal so that if it fell, it would land boing right on the head of the person who was sitting in the chair. And you'd say out loud, purpose of this crystal is to symbolically disperse the harsh energy of the beam before it reaches the person in the chair down below. The next group of problems are situations that they're nice to have if you can get them, or if it's a problem, it's fairly easy to fix. And this is the largest category that we'll be going over. The first one would concern highways. It's best to be away from really busy highways. A highway or road, regular roads aren't a problem at all, but busy highways, that's what we're concerned with here, where you're hearing a lot of trucks go by, traffic all the time, sometimes even at night. The solution, if you have to get that, would be to put a bagua mirror outside the home facing toward the busy road. Roads are considered to be like a river of energy, and they chip away at the good energy of the home. Every time one of those trucks goes by, it's like a river chipping away at the eroding the banks of the river. A question just came in. I'm going to go ahead and answer it. And it says, what is a good size for crystals to be hung on ceilings? And that was concerning the previous one where I mentioned a crystal hanging from a beam. What you go by is the size of the room. If it's a small room, you don't need a really big crystal. If it's a big room, like a great room, you need a pretty good sized crystal, like maybe inch or two. But if it's that's really what you're going for, is what seems appropriate. If you're putting a very diminutive crystal in a large room, it's not going to work as well. Okay, so now we're going on with highways and roads, and the next situation would be a T intersection. So that's very unfortunate. You've got cars aiming right toward your house. And the solution would be to either plant a solid evergreen hedge between your house and the road, or to put a wall or a fence that is solid. And you might even want to go one better than that and also put a bagua mirror facing toward that T intersection with your expressed intention that it is to push the energy of the road away from your peaceful home. Another road situation would be if the road is curved, there's a preferred side of the road. The outside of the curve, that would be the convex side, is considered to be a harsher place to have a home. And the inside of a curve, the concave side, that's a more protected side. If you're living on the convex side, as cars go along, their headlights at night would be shining on your home. And that does not happen to the cars that are on the homes that are on the concave side. Once again, the solution would be solid, blocking it very solidly with evergreen plants, or solid wall, solid fence, and even a bagua mirror. Now let's talk about neighbors a little bit, the kind of neighbors that could be problematic. Police and fire stations, we're grateful for them in our communities because they're the first responders. They're very helpful in our lives. But living right next door or extremely close by, that's not ideal at all, because the energy of those places is chaos and confusion and problems, and you just don't want that so close to your home. It's going to upset the kind of peace and quiet of the home, and it'll do it repeatedly. Other situations could be if your home is next to a place that is somehow connected with death, which would be cemeteries, mortuaries, or churches that have funerals. And those places are considered to be too yin, because yin is death. and you would put a bagua mirror outside facing in that direction to reflect away the influence of those places from your home. If they're related to death, you could possibly also end up with wandering, confused spirits in your home. So it would be best not to be too close to those kinds of situations. And I will say that schools are okay, especially elementary schools, that the energy of the young kids is just fine. It's actually pretty good feng shui. The next thing would be to get a home where you enter through the official front door, not through some carport door or garage door, but when you park and you come home, that the front door is where you come in. That's how it was designed, and that's really you're the number one person. You're living there. It's your home. The front door is the grandest entry, and it should be for you, and you should use it. If you normally use a different door, such as a carport door or something like that, just because it's more convenient, at least once a month, get out of your car and walk around to the official front door and come in that way, come in through the front door. And you might just pause and take a moment to express out loud your gratitude to the home for being there and being a shelter for you. And I can't leave this picture without saying a word about the shape of that doormat. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But that's not a good shape to have outside of any door at all. And we'll get to that more a little bit later. The next thing is if there's a swimming pool, where it's located makes a big difference. Most swimming pools are behind a home, and that's actually the worst place for it. The best place for a swimming pool is in the front of the home. It's symbolizing all that water is symbolizing prosperity that could come in your front door. But behind a home, it's representing an abyss. Like when I was first talking about the severely bad landform, that is when there's a slope right steeply behind a home. That's what a swimming pool is. You've created an abyss behind the home. It could be fine. Homes that have swimming pools on the sides, that could be fine. But in the front, that would be the best place if you've got a pool. I'll also talk a second here about the shape of the pool. If you've got a curved pool, like what's called a kidney-shaped pool, it's best if the concave side faces the house. That's in the lower right drawing. And the convex side, that's in the lower left drawing, if the convex side is facing the house, that's not as ideal. And you'd want to plant some evergreen plants between the house and the pool, establishing a barrier. That's what the top drawing is showing, is it's behind the home, and the people have planted this evergreen hedge there so that the abyss is not the first thing you see when you're in the home. The next situation concerns the bedroom, and the bedroom is the most important room in the home, and the bed's the most important object. So you want an empowered position for the bed. That would be so that when you open your eyes, you can easily see toward the doorway. That's what this drawing shows. There are some windows, but they're not directly behind the bed. The headboard's up against a solid wall, and the windows just let some light in beside the bed. The next slide shows a situation. The one on the left, that shows a situation where, yes, the people could open their eyes and see toward the doorway easily, but that bed is right in line with the energy coming in the door. And that straight line of energy coming, it's kind of a swath of energy that crosses the room and reaches the back wall. That's not a good place to hang out. have your bed, have your desk, have your favorite chair. It's better to be some other part in some other part of the room. And that's what you'll see in the drawings on the right. The bed, the people in the bed can easily see toward the doorway, but that swath of harsh energy is not affecting them at all. There are solutions if you have to put your bed in that line of harsh energy, and they would start with hanging a crystal between the doorway and the bed. The worst situation would be, look at the drawing on the right, the far right. Imagine that the bed got scooted over so that the entire bed, the foot of the bed was closest to the door, and the entire bed was in that swath of energy. That's referred to as the coffin position. And the energy is just much, much too harsh in that case. So also concerning the bed, we'll talk about the distance between the bed and the toilet. Or other drains in the bathroom, but the toilet's considered to be the most problematic object in the home. And that's because of the size of the visible drain. If it is that you don't have a choice, your headboard really has to be against a wall that on the other side is a bathroom, and the toilet is there, or the drain is there, then you need to put a mirror, preferably in the bathroom, shining toward the drain. And you say out loud, this is to push away the energy of the drain from the bed in the next room. If you don't have access to that bathroom, then you can put the mirror in your own bedroom. And that's what the drawings that are the second from the left show, that the mirror is in the bedroom. But what happens with those mirrors is that the shiny part is actually facing the wall. The one above toward the sink, and the one below toward the toilet. And then the two drawings to the right show situations where a toilet could be above or below a bed. If the toilet is above a bed, you'll need to put a mirror above the bed on the ceiling with the shiny side facing up toward the toilet. If the bed is above a toilet on the next floor, then you'll need to put a mirror in that bathroom shining down, on the ceiling of the bathroom shining down toward the toilet. If you don't have access to that bathroom, like it's a roommate's bathroom or something like that, you could put the mirror under your own bed, but the shiny part would be shining down toward the problem, which would be the toilet. Okay, now we're going to get to the problem of a central staircase. And I had mentioned this earlier on when we were talking about the floor plans. The photo to the left shows a staircase that, what I'm guessing is that on the landing, that staircase touches an outside wall. And that's ideal. That's somewhere along a staircase, it should touch an outside wall. And the drawing to the right, the photo, it's a beautiful staircase and all that, but energy can run around it in a circle, and that's invites some chaos into your life, kind of like you're running in circles and not accomplishing things. The solution would be to hang a crystal somewhere around that staircase, as if you were walking in a circle around it. That crystal would be hanging over your head, and it's symbolically dispersing that energy that's uselessly going in a circle there. The next situation would happen in a kitchen, and that could portend disharmony. I have a video that Watermark produced. You can get to them on my website. The homepage has a link to the videos that they've produced. And there's one that I talk very specifically and show you what to do if you've got these kind of situations. And the drawing on the lower right is a little feng shui nightmare, because you've got the stove representing fire right directly across from the sink representing water. And the stove is right next to the fridge representing water and cold. I've gone to homes where there are scorch marks on the side of the fridge, and that's really bad kitchen design. Any stove needs some counter space on either side of it. So there needs to be some counter space between a fridge and a stove. If they're fairly close, the counter needs to be there. If you've got this situation where the fridge and the stove are right next to each other, you need to do your best to hang a crystal between the fridge and the stove, symbolically dispersing their two energies. You could do the same thing with the stove and the sink, but there's also another solution that would work too. And it's not as visible, and a lot of people opt for it. And that would be, look at the top drawing, and you'll see there that gray line there is representing a piece of red tape, like red electrical tape. And where it's placed is under the counter, under the lip. So it's that line of red that gets placed there. And what it's symbolizing is that you have created a separation, like a karate chop, between the fire and the water. And that's what you'd say out loud, is this red is symbolizing fresh blood, a new situation. Red is the most powerful color in Feng Shui, and it's very often used in situations to symbolize that they have been changed. The next situation that also could portend disharmony is a central support pole. And that would be a pole that you could walk on either side of. And that would say, if you were looking at it, that one eye goes on one side, one eye goes on the other, and we see things differently. You see things that way, I see things this way. The solution would be to put something tall next to it, such as a very tall plant, tall folding screen, tall furniture like a bookshelf, something like that, so that the pole isn't just standing there all alone by itself. And I sometimes see this situation in homes where the home has had an addition, and a wall that had been a support wall has been removed, but they needed to put a pole in, a column to support the roof and the ceiling. Another thing that could possibly portend disharmony would be two doors in the home where the doorknobs are called clashing. The two doorknobs could touch each other. Here, the front door, if it opens, its doorknob could touch the bathroom door, which is the door that you'll see on the left. And when I moved in with my husband in his apartment in San Francisco, that was exactly the situation we had. And the very first thing I did was to hang red tassels from those doorknobs to symbolize that the situation had been changed. The people who lived downstairs had the exact same floor plan, and they didn't know Feng Shui, and they were a kind of classic case of something going very wrong, because they screamed at each other day and night. And that would be all night long. Sometimes they would just be screaming at each other because the doorknobs are symbolizing two different heads knocking against each other. The next situation would be quality building materials. And I've been to homes when the building inspector was there, and it was a true eye-opener. If you're going to buy a home, you must get a building inspector to look at it, because they'll know to look at things that you wouldn't know about, you wouldn't even think about necessarily. Um, if you're building a home, then you can know from the get-go that you're using good quality. But if it's a home that's already been built, you need someone to inspect it, to give you that assurance of what you can expect. Now, the next situations are these I call other considerations. They're sometimes not as common, but they can be problematic, and so you need to think about them. The driveways sometimes could have a severe slope. Right where it meets the road, the driveway should be fairly level. If right from the road, the driveway starts sloping up or down pretty severely, that's going to say that energy is having a problem getting to you. If it slopes up, the energy could get tired as it gets about halfway up your driveway and just rolls back down. The last consultation I had just last week, I started to drive up the client's driveway and my car wouldn't make it. It was way too steep, and the car just wouldn't make it. So my first suggestion to her was to put a convex mirror at the base of the driveway, one actually on each side, that would be symbolically pushing the energy back up the driveway before it rolled back down to the street. The mirrors would be facing not the street, but on up the driveway. If the driveway is sloping down severely right from the road, that says that life's going to be an uphill struggle for you. And you need to put lighting or plant some plants that have very light colored leaves and that sort of thing along the driveway. There is an occasion driveways that are directly opposite each other. And when that happens, the larger driveway is considered to win. It pulls in more energy simply because the mouth is larger and it gets more of its share. The possible solution would be to make your driveway even larger than that one. But if you take that to its conclusion, then both homes would have a completely cement front yard because they were trying to outdo the other ones. And that's not good feng shui either, because you don't want a cement front yard. It says barren. So if you do have the situation of your driveway is opposite another one, you want your driveway to simply be more noticeable. You do whatever it takes that is in the realm of good taste and your own taste to make your driveway more noticeable than the one across the road. It could mean that your cement is dyed or has beautiful designs in it, or that around the driveway you've got beautiful plantings or pottery, that kind of thing. Now we're going to get to what I had talked about earlier with the semicircular doormat. That's the kind of doormat that this door has here, semicircular. And the reason they probably picked it is because that's the shape of their stairs. Look at the drawing there, and you'll see that there's a front landing in front of that home that's semicircular. And the reason that's a problem in feng shui is that the symbol is that imagine a pitcher of water or a measuring cup that's got water in it, and that lip, that spout where it gets poured out, that's what you're establishing with that curved shape, is the ability for good fortune to pour out of the home. So you would want to, first of all, get rid of that kind of a doormat and get a rectangular one. And if you can, you would change the shape of the stairs so that they were simply more square or rectangular, but not semicircular. If you can't do that, if that's just not feasible at all, you'd put a tiny dot of red paint on each stair, and you'd say out loud, "This shape has been changed. It is no longer a curved shape." The next situation concerns the windows of a home. And it's if there are things close to those windows that are fake. The windows represent our eyes, how we see things, how we understand things. And if you've got fake shutters, that says that you're not understanding, you're not seeing things correctly, that you're trusting in things that could be just completely false. Because the shutters in this picture, those are false shutters. They don't even have hinges. And if they did have hinges, they wouldn't even close correctly. Having real shutters that will close, that's no problem at all. That those are good in case of storms and tornadoes and that sort of thing. Well, I won't say they're good in case of tornadoes, but they certainly are good in case of storms. But what mullions are is they're the little piece of wood that divide the panes of glass in a window. And what some builders are doing these days is they're taking a perfectly good big window and they're installing fake mullions. So it looks like the window has got all these little panes where actually it doesn't. It's just one big pane. So the solution in both of these cases, fake shutters or fake mullions, is to remove them. Remove the fake mullions, remove the fake shutters. The house will look better and it will feel better too. Next situation concerns the foyer. Not every home has one, but it should. A foyer in Feng Shui, that's referred to as the Ming Tang, the bright hall. And it's the place where the energy coming into your home has the opportunity to do this. It catches its breath. It has a moment before the person is just thrust into the living room. They've got a little moment to just adjust to the space they're in. And that's very important. If you don't have a foyer, try to do something that creates the impression of a foyer. If it's just a little side table where you'd put your keys when you arrive home or something like that, that would be good enough. But if you've got a real foyer, that's just grand. The next situation concerns the how we classify rooms in Feng Shui as yin or yang. The bedrooms are yin and the active rooms are yang, such as the living room, the den, the kitchen, that kind of thing. It's best if the yin rooms are away from the road because the road itself is a very yang object. And the purpose of those yin rooms is to get good rest. And that won't be as feasible if the bedrooms are toward the road. That's a better place for a home office. It's actually an ideal place for a home office because it benefits from that yang energy. The kind of the saddest situation is where a person's bedroom also has to serve as their office. And in that situation, I tell people that at night, take some really nice fabric and just cover over the desk completely so that it's not influencing your sleep. The next concerns the height of the ceiling. It's popular in some homes these days to have the living room be double height. And when I go to homes like that, it's a living room that it's pretty obvious nobody goes into and hangs out, that they pass through it on their way coming and going, but nobody really sits in those chairs. The room doesn't have a good settled energy. People spend most of their time in the den, which has a ceiling that's kind of the regular height you would expect of a ceiling. Ceilings can be too low, but in that case, it's pretty obvious. It just feels too low. The room feels cramped, and if you can just avoid getting that situation, it's not going to be good for you. The ceilings that are too high, you can work with it, but it usually involves painting that ceiling a little darker than you normally would. Most ceilings should be painted white, but if it's a really high ceiling, to make the room seem a little cozier, you would use some shade that was darker than white. Not black, but just something that was darker to kind of draw the room into a cozier mode. The next situation would be long hallways, because what they do is they conduct energy like a rifle barrel. And your job, it's in some homes. A short hallway is not a problem at all, but some homes do have long hallways, and your job is to slow down the energy that's moving down that hallway. And it starts with rugs. Not necessarily just one long runner, but it could be several rugs with really interesting designs, because one of the things you want to do here is make that hallway kind of seem like an art gallery, and not just an art gallery that has glass over the pictures, but the kind of artwork that you're tempted to touch. Maybe there are wall ornaments, but you want people going down that hallway to really be tempted to slow down and look at what's on the walls. And that can be helped by having good lighting that spotlights the artwork there. And the next situation is similar to the toilet and the bed, but this is, what if the toilet and the stove are sharing a wall? The stove is considered to be the most powerful object in the home because it could conceivably destroy your home. And with this toilet here, you'll see this large, heavy rock that has been placed right kind of where the drain is on the floor. And that is symbolically grounding the good fortune that would otherwise be flushed away. And it doesn't have to be a stone. It could be a heavy barbell weight, like a 20-pound weight. But you would say out loud, the purpose of this is to ground the good fortune so that it's not flushed away. The other solution, and it is good to do both of them if you can, is to put a mirror, just like had been done in the situation with the bed and the toilet. You'd put the mirror behind the toilet, shiny side pointing toward the toilet, saying out loud, this is to reflect away the energy of the toilet from the stove. Because as the crow flies, if they're sharing a wall, you've got body waste energy a few inches away from where you're preparing food. And that, in Feng Shui, that's just way, way too close. If you don't have access to that bathroom, you could put the mirror in the kitchen behind the stove, and the shiny part would be facing toward the wall. The next situation would also concern stoves, and it could also concern fireplaces. You don't want a stove located so that you could just walk all the way around it. You don't want it in the center of a room. That's disturbing the energy too much. And the same is true with a fireplace. They need to be closer to a wall, maybe on the wall, but not right in the center where you could just walk all the way around it. The solution would be to hang a crystal. Like if you've got this situation right here, where I would hang the crystal would be between the stove and the sink, because that way the one crystal could be doing two things. It could be dispersing the hot and cold energies before they meet up, and it could be dispersing the energy that would be just uselessly going in a circle around the stove. And I can't leave this picture without talking about that rug. Don't get that kind of pattern. Here it's not good because it's in a sense connecting the energy of the stove and the sink together, because that's the direction of the stripes. But stripes themselves portend argument, because one stripe is one person's opinion and another stripe is somebody else's. And Watermark also made a video of me discussing stripes, what you consider problematic stripes and which ones just would not be so problematic. Now, the next situations are ones that are fairly rare, but they're problems. They're big fat problems. And the one that's shown right here is the first one I'd like to deal with. It's mirrors that are directly across from each other, facing each other. And there's another picture of this where you'll see the whole wall of one side is mirror, but the other side, it's just got a mirror hung. So in either case, you have to change that situation. You cannot have a mirror directly reflecting another mirror. I consulted for some people who were into shamanism, and they said, you know, the same exact thing is taught in shamanism, and it's considered that that situation opens a portal to malevolent, non-human energies. And folks, it gives me the creeps to even just say that. But the truth is, every time I've talked to people that have that situation, been into a home where there is that situation, that's the kind of thing they're reporting, is a malevolent ghost kind of energy, really creepy energy. So if it's sliding mirror doors, it can be as simple as you just lift the mirror door off its slot, flip it around, put it back. And that way you don't have mirrors facing each other. And that fixes it. But that situation has got to be fixed. I've seen it sometimes in bathrooms where there'll be one big mirror for the double sinks, and then on the little walls that are beside the sinks, there's one mirror, and then at the end of the at the other one, there is another mirror like that, and they're shining toward each other. And in that case, what I've told the people is to get some nice frosted contact paper and put it over one of the mirrors so that you didn't have that kind of situation. Susan Levitt just made a great comment. The Palace of Versailles. That's a superb example of how to do something very wrong. Now, this problem here blows my mind. It's considered cutting edge design to have glass floors and glass staircases. And what that is doing is it's training people not to trust their own eyes. It's really wretched Feng Shui. I can't use words bad enough in this to describe how horrible that kind of situation is. Just don't get a situation like that. If if you get a home that has that, just be prepared to change it. It's a really bad situation. And when you think of any kind of design as cutting edge, think of that phrase, cutting edge. Do you really want something cutting edge in your home? I hope not. So the next situation would concern the bathroom and the kitchen. Here you'll see there's a little kitchen and there's a door right from it that opens into the bathroom. And in many locations, that's actually against building code. You really can't do that. And it's definitely against Feng Shui code, because when the door is open, those two energies of the food you put in your body and the body waste are able to mingle. If you do have that situation, that door needs to be closed all the time, that someone is not coming and going, and a crystal needs to be hung just inside the kitchen, right kind of above that door, that would be dispersing the two energies. The next situation is pretty rare, although there are certain neighborhoods where it's not rare, and that's a roof that does not have an overhang. The overhang is symbolizing protection for the home, and it actually isn't just symbolizing it, it actually is protection, because when I've gone to neighborhoods that there is no overhang for the roof, the walls, the outside walls, get too much water and they tend to start rotting. So if you have that situation, you want to change it to one where you have created an overhang. It doesn't have to be at exactly the same slope of the roof. And if you aren't able to do anything else, you put up awning over the windows and doors. But it is by far best to get a home that has adequate overhang for the roof. Here is the next situation that is showing a barren yard. And I alluded to this when I talked about the size of the driveways that might be facing each other. The best front yards, or yards period, but the front yard is where you're inviting energy in, and you don't want to be inviting barren energy into your life. That's a horrible situation. If you've got a yard that is mostly cement, you want to start breaking up some of it so that you can plant some healthy living things. If you're a renter and you're not able to do that, then you get some potted plants and put it in there, so that you can symbolize that things can grow here, that there's life and prosperity can pour into it. If you've got a barren yard, you've also got an obligation to change that. The next situation is not uncommon, actually. It's where the front door, when you open it up, you're looking out the back window or the back door. And the energy in that case, the energy that's just coming in the door, goes right out. Look at the drawing to the left, and you'll see those red arrows coming in the front door, and they're headed right out. They don't enrich the home at all. They're just going out to that beautiful view. Oh, look, those trees, those mountains, that lake. And the drawing that's more to the right, that shows an ideal situation where you open the door and there is a solid wall in front of you. And that way the energy that comes in disperses on into the room. And then the door that's the back door is off to the side. If you want to see a beautiful view, the best place to see it is from the window that you've gone and to that's off to the side and look at, or you go to the back porch or deck or something like that. If you've got the situation that's shown in this photograph, what you really need to do is put some curtains up over that back window so that to really see the best view, you have to go someplace else than exactly at the front door. The next situation concerns your address numbers. And the first two ways are very good. The 572, each number as you're reading it, the number's going up. And that says that the energy that finds you is going to be good, positive energy because it's going upward. The direction you do not want to guide energy in is in a downward direction. That says things are going to go down in your life. The one that's the 572 that goes along horizontally, that's just fine. That's how most homes are. And that just says things will happen at a nice even pace. But the two ones to the right, where the 572, the numbers are on going down, don't get that kind of situation. It's not good at all. You want to change it as soon as you move in to numbers that either go up or go straight along. There are some neighborhoods where the numbers are on the mailbox poles and they go directly down. And if that is the situation and you cannot change it because of the covenants of the neighborhood, then the symbolic cure is to take a tiny bit of red paint, touch each of those numerals, and say out loud, you are going horizontally, you are not going vertically. That's the wish that you are expressing there. Now, a home could have troubled history, and that could mean it has a past of death or divorce, disease, or abuse, and that can be sometimes hard to find out about. You want to ask your real estate agent, and if you can, you ask the neighbors around, what kind of people lived here, because it's considered that history can repeat itself. And if someone died there, that's not necessarily bad. A peaceful death does not indicate a bad place to live. A divorce could, disease could possibly. Abuse is one of the worst things that could happen in a home. It just leaves a very weird psychic imprint in the home. And so the way you would deal with those situations if they had happened in the home would be what's called a clearing. And some might call it a sage smudging. What I prefer to use is desert white sage. And you would light it, and the smoke would go high and low throughout the home. You'd open every door, every drawer, every cabinet, every closet. You'd do it in the daytime. All the doors and windows would be open, and you'd use your own voice to say out loud, any old energies have to leave. The sage smoke is purifying this area, and the old energies must go. Years ago, I consulted for a lady in Oakland, and she met me at the door, and she said, when we got this home, I was concerned that there might be spirits here, and so I called a Ghostbuster. And would you like to find out what she found? And I said, you know what? You are not on the clock. I said, this is my education. I really want to know. And so she took me throughout the home to places where the Ghostbuster had found spirits lodged. And they were almost all in the basement. And that taught me a whole lot, that energy tends to sink down into rugs, into lower floors, and basically into places that people don't go and don't use very often. There was a fireplace downstairs that never got lit, and there was a spirit lodge there. There was a tub shower, and there two spirits were lodged there, and that tub shower was never used. So what you want to do with when you're doing a clearing is to escort those energies on out of your home and your life. If you feel like it's a really severe situation and you don't feel competent yourself, do call in a professional, a ghostbuster or a priest or someone that you would trust that has good expertise in that area. But in most cases, just yourself, your own voice, and sage smudge is fine. There are other techniques, but this is the one that I trust quite well. And even if you haven't heard anything bad about the home, it's a good idea to do this in any home before, just as soon as you move in, so that you are making it fresh and new for yourself. That pretty much covers what I had wanted to say about getting a new place to live. But I do want to say this, that in my experience, the very best way to get a new home that has good feng shui is to have the feng shui in your existing home to be just excellent. And if you wonder about that, you might want to take the agent class, which will be the third of these classes, because it's not just for real estate agents. It's for anyone who is trying to achieve success in their life. What Watermark has done is, if you go to their website, bookshawaii.net, and look at the Feng Shui for Real Estate page, there are a couple of checklists there. And these you can download for free, and they would be what you would take with you as you were walking through a home. They will show you, talk about the situations that you might encounter as you're doing your walkthrough, and whether or not, depending on how you're doing the checklist, if you should just pass on that home, or if you think, well, we could fix this. This might be fixable. There's one checklist for freestanding homes and another one for apartments and condominiums. And they're divided up into the deal breakers and the ones that would be deal breakers, but you could possibly fix them, and in which case they wouldn't be deal breakers. The last thing I'll mention is that there's a code on this slide, Tiger 2022, that if you'd like to get my Watermark books, if you get 2 or 3 of them, they'll give you 20% off. And if you get all 4 of my Watermark books, they'll give you 30% off, and that's a real nice deal. So I think we've got time for questions, if there are some. Does anyone have a question at this point? Or have I covered it all? Well, nobody seems to be asking a question. So I'm going to say thank you. Thank you very much, folks, for attending. And there's my website. Is this record? Oh, now that's a great question, Linda. Yes, you can go back and watch this over and over and over. If you've attended once, you can watch it over and over. Don't go sharing it with people. This is for you, but you've got it, and you can watch it over again. You use the same link that you used before, and you can watch it again. And I just want to thank you all for attending. This is the first webinar I've ever done, and I have to say I was a little nervous, but I want to thank Dawn Sakamoto from Watermark Publishing for making it a lot less nervous for me, because of the great job she did in producing it. And I certainly want to thank Watermark for making such lovely books out of my words. All right. Thank you, folks. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.